This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
It has been 3 weeks since Metro Police first used chemicals and projectiles to disperse the protests against police brutality.
Tonight, one group is suing the city over the use of those materials. The ACLU of Indiana filed the lawsuit on behalf of individual protesters and ND10 Black Lives Matter. The federal lawsuit says chemical irritants such as tear gas, rubber bullets, and batons were used against protesters on May 29th, 30th, and 31st. You saw it the very first time it happened here on RTV6. The ACLU says those weapons violated the protesters' First Amendment rights. ND10 Black Lives Matter released this statement. They say, quote, the onus for repairing harm is on city leadership and IMPD, and they would do well to lending their efforts toward the policy reform and addressing the use of force policies as well as holding officers accountable, end quote. The office of Mayor Joe Hogsett referred us to the city county government's office of corporation counsel. That office issued a statement saying they do not comment on pending litigation. RTV6 has also reached out to IMPD for comment, but we have not yet heard back.
Today we heard from the mayor of Anderson regarding video we showed you earlier this week. That video showed an Anderson police officer using a chokehold while arresting a person. This happened last Saturday, just a few days after Mayor Thomas Broderick announced police could no longer use chokeholds when making an arrest. Today, that mayor said he supports for both body cameras and dash cameras on police. He also announced that efforts will be made to reach out to community groups as a way to improve their community policing efforts. The two officers involved in the arrest, Brandon Reynolds and Ashley Gravely, have been placed on administrative leave with pay pending an investigation. Kevin.
Amanda, we have rain on radar. I say that with enthusiasm. It's been a couple weeks in some locations since we've had measurable rainfall. At first glance, doesn't look like much, and it's not covering a lot of real estate, but I've circled 3 areas. We'll go zoom in on the state line with Ohio. These are actually drifting from northeast to southwest. They'll bring pockets of heavy rainfall that won't last that long. You may get some lightning as well. In Bartholomew County, you see they flare up and then fade away. Once they start producing that heavy rain, then they're starting to diminish, but just southwest of Columbus, nice little downpour with some lightning. 86 in Castleton, temperatures 85 in Greenwood, Edinburgh with the nearby rain, 81 degrees. Statewide temperatures 87 in Terre Haute. We'll do this again tomorrow, add a few more degrees, and I think the chance of any thunderstorms tomorrow will remain low. 71, that's your 8 a.m. temperature, 85 by midday, and an afternoon high that will push 90 degrees. That would be our first 90 so far this summer, roughly. Summer officially arrives Saturday. What else arrives over the weekend coming up?
And now to the latest on the toll the pandemic is taking on Hoosier lives. The State Department of Health says 2,304 people in Indiana have died from COVID-19. More than 41,000 have been diagnosed with the virus. More than 380,000 people have been tested, with 10.8% testing positive.
A new study confirms a pattern that seemed to exist from the start of the pandemic. Young people aren't getting the virus as often, and they don't show symptoms when they do. Researchers at a London medical school found that people under the age of 20 were half as likely to get the coronavirus as people older than 20. Only 21% of those younger people who got the virus showed any symptoms. Compare that to 69% of the rest of the population. The CDC has found similar results in its studies. This data could be very useful in deciding how and when to reopen schools.
With a record number of Hoosiers out of work and looking for unemployment benefits, RTV6 has been answering your questions about COVID-19 and how it impacts your job. One woman who reached out to us says she was fired from a salon after quarantining for 3 days with coronavirus symptoms. The business says that is not why she was fired. Cornelius Hawker now with what you can do if you think you are in a similar situation.
K-Page tells me she has plans to become a hairstylist, so she decided to take a job at her local Great Clips to get her foot in the door.
I am actually not licensed yet, so I've been doing receptionist there for 2 years now.
Like many businesses, the salon where Kay worked closed because of the coronavirus pandemic. When they reopened, the new protocols put in place didn't sit well with some customers.
We had been threatened on the multiple occasions over requiring face masks.
And then what Kay had been trying to avoid happened.
about the end of the third week, I got sick with coronavirus symptoms. So I talked to my manager and asked her, what should I do? And she said that coming in for me was not an option and to go to the doctor. So I did.
At her doctor's orders, Kay took 3 days off of work, returning with a doctor's note. But she says it didn't stop her general manager from letting her go.
Being fired with a doctor's note in the middle of a global pandemic, it's just a lot.
I reached out to the Department of Labor and the Department of Workforce Development to try and get some answers for Kay about the situation and anyone else who says they've been fired for similar reasons. I found out that within 30 days of being fired, you can file a complaint on the Department of Labor's website if you think you've been unjustly terminated for following safety and health guidelines. A department spokesperson also says you can find a lawyer who deals with employee rights to see if you have a case. The Department of Workforce Development wants people to know you are eligible for unemployment if you refuse to go back to work because you or someone you live with has COVID-19, or if you're quarantining on the advice of your doctor. And as always, it's important to get a doctor's note so you have documentation. Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, RTV6.
Thanks, Cornelius. The managers at the Great Clips where Kay worked in Newcastle tell RTV6 they did not fire her over anything to do with COVID-19, but rather multiple issues over the last 8-month period.
Football may not happen this year. Definitely not what fans want to hear, but that's exactly what Dr. Anthony Fauci is saying tonight. He's warning about a second wave of coronavirus, but the NFL seems more optimistic. They say they're getting ready to play this season as scheduled and planning out a number of safety measures too, including developing a testing program. But Dr. Fauci says unless players are essentially in a bubble, it would be very hard to see how football is able to be played this fall.
We're just 2 days away from President Trump's rally in Oklahoma. This comes as the state remains in the grip of the COVID-19 pandemic. Coming up, how organizers and supporters are preparing for this event.
5-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty.
This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
The U.S. Supreme Court has locked the Trump administration's attempt to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. DACA is an Obama-era program that protects hundreds of thousands of immigrants brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. It also offers recipients work authorization. The 5-4 ruling was written by Chief Justice John Roberts. The court's ruling will allow the DACA recipients to continue to renew membership in the program. This is not the end, however. The Trump administration could move again to try to rescind the program. The opinion is the second time in a week when the Supreme Court has ruled against the Trump administration. Monday, the court said LGBTQ Americans are protected under the Civil Rights Act. Meanwhile, the president is set to rally supporters in Oklahoma Saturday. The campaign says they've received over 1 million ticket requests to this event.
But what will the president's rallies look like in the middle of a pandemic, and where will he be heading next? Our Washington correspondent Joe St. George is getting those answers.
There's a whole lot of cleaning going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma for President Trump's first campaign rally since the pandemic began.
We're here to support our president.
These Oklahomans camping out since Monday. Across the street, though, this protester with this sign wonders if it's worth it. We're asking, what will rallies with President Trump be like in a pandemic?
I feel perfectly safe going to the rally.
Bob Jack is president of the Tulsa County Republican Party. He says each attendee will get a temperature check, hand sanitizer, and a mask. Using it, though, well, that's up for debate.
They're going to hand you a mask. Are you going to wear it?
No, I'm not going to wear it.
Answers like that are why Tulsa's top public health official wants the event canceled, believing in a crowd of 20,000, at least one person will have the virus.
We were curious, though, does the White House know the risks of holding these rallies, and will anything look different? To find out, we came here to the West Wing of the White House. You're not worried at all?
It's my job to worry. I'm a mother.
Kellyanne Conway is one of the president's closest advisors and says she and the president know the risks.
The president's made very clear he wants to get back to doing rallies. He wants to get back to the people.
One looming question, where will the president hold his next rally? Campaign officials tell us Florida, Arizona, and North Carolina have all been discussed. All are states, though, with COVID cases on the rise.
Florida likely?
Sure, why not? Everywhere is likely.
Back in Tulsa, a simple warning from the man with a sign.
I just don't want a super spreader event.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Meanwhile, Democratic nominee Joe Biden has not committed to any public rallies yet. Instead, the former vice president continues to host virtual events and buy commercials on television. Biden's campaign launched a $15 million ad buy in 6 swing states this morning.
Yet another brand is reconsidering the image it uses, and that image is linked to racial stereotypes. We'll have that story coming up on the news at 7.
And we have rain to track on radar, so we'll do it. We'll take a quick radar tour and look into your weekend forecast as well, coming up.
.org. Cream of Wheat is the latest major food to announce that it is reviewing its controversial logo. The move comes amid the grown global Black Lives Matter movement. The maker of Cream of Wheat says their packaging features the image of a black Chicago chef named Frank L. White. That image replaced an earlier mascot named Rastus, who scholars say was a racist caricature. In early Cream of Wheat ads, Rastus was portrayed as a former slave who spoke broken English. The maker says they do not want their brands to contribute to systemic racism.
American Airlines says a passenger was removed from a flight this week for refusing to wear a face covering as required by a company policy. It happened on a flight from New York to Dallas. The airline says when Brandon Starka declined to wear a face covering, the team asked him to deplane. According to American, after a long public rant, he got off and the flight departed.
The whole staff is just standing around me, intimidating me, saying, "You're keeping everybody waiting. You're keeping everybody waiting." And I'm like, this isn't this is not a thing. I don't have to do this. I've never had this happen before where I was told it was the law and they took me off the plane. So I get off the plane. This is insane. I mean, this is literally, these people have gone absolutely nuts.
The airline says Starka was rebooked on a later flight after agreeing to comply with company policies. He says he wore the mask the airline gave him but removed it once on the plane and no one complained. This is the first known incident of this type since the air carriers announced plans to more strictly enforce mask wearing. Could double-decker seats be the future of airplane travel? That's one man's vision. His design puts double-decker seats in the space between a standard seat and an overhead bin. The seats lay flat and give privacy. They're called Zephyr seats and were designed by Jeffrey O'Neill and his partner. O'Neill says Zephyr seats would allow the majority of airlines to maintain the same seating density as offered by their existing premium economy cabins. He says they could be a game changer in the wake of the pandemic. The idea is still in its infancy. Passing the product through the required safety test could be a 3-year process.
The economic shutdown prompted by the coronavirus has had not just a financial impact, but an impact on American currency itself. Specifically, we're seeing a shortage of coins, quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. The reason? Businesses were closed and people were largely staying in, halting the flow of change through the marketplace. The Federal Reserve Chair says it's a temporary issue and officials have been coordinating with the U.S. Mint to fix the problem. Twitter is introducing a new feature, audio tweets. In the coming weeks, all iOS users will be able to create tweets with their voice. Critics say this could open the door to new forms of abuse, including verbal harassment. Twitter says it's working to incorporate additional monitoring systems ahead of that rollout. The company also says it would review any reported voice tweets and take necessary action. Users will not be able to use audio to reply to voice tweets.
Our dry stretch of days is ending for a select few this evening. 2 weeks, that's how long it's been since we've had measurable rainfall in Indianapolis. Let me show you a few downpours here. They're to the east and southeast of Indianapolis. First, let's go east, Wayne County, just north of Richmond and southeast of Richmond, a couple of downpours. Then you go up toward Winchester, Portland, probably just missing you to the south and east. Nice little downpour with some lightning there. We'll head down toward Bartholomew County, Columbus. You've had showers popping up here in the last hour. They flare up, then they fade away as they drop some brief heavy rainfall, not expecting any severe weather. The more organized, widespread threat for thunderstorms will arrive as we go to Father's Day weekend, and really Father's Day itself in the afternoon and evening. We may have a couple of isolated showers and thunder showers again during the day tomorrow. On the move. Rain chances climbing, temperatures warming into the low 90s, and that humidity will also be felt, especially Sunday and Monday. Temperatures right now, rain cooled 81, at least cooled by the clouds in Richmond, 88 in Connorsville, not for long. Temperatures in western Indiana, upper 80s from Terre Haute to Sullivan. Friday forecast about the same as today, perhaps a couple degrees warmer, hitting 90. The chance for showers and thunderstorms in the eastern portion of the state about 20%. That's really about it. High temperatures, all of central Indiana above average. Saturday, in the morning hours, dry. In the afternoon, we'll see a couple of showers and thunderstorms bubble up. Not expecting anything widespread. Do not change your plans. The better chance for thunderstorms will come Sunday. The warmest day of the weekend, clearly, Saturday. The record high is a triple-digit number. We're not going to make it there. 92, the expected high temperature in the metro area. Early next week, we'll continue with our chance for thunderstorms. Pretty good chance scattered thunderstorms Monday. Overnight lows, by the way, Saturday morning, Sunday morning into Monday, 70 degrees, so it will be quite warm. We'll be back into the lower 80s with reduced rain chance in the middle of next week. And we'll be back with more news right after this.
Our professional grade GMC.
A reminder, through this Sunday, you can help people who may be struggling to put food on the table. RTV6 is teaming up with Kroger to support Second Helpings. Now through Sunday, you can round up your grocery bill or select a donation amount of your choice when you check out at select Kroger locations. You can find out more at theindychannel.com/feedinghoosiers.
And we continue our We're Open Indy series with another long-standing family restaurant. This one has been serving up old world Italian classics for nearly 60 years. And they've grown quite the extended family in Beech Grove. Our Brad Brown takes a look.
In the heart of Beech Grove's Main Street, a taste of classic Italian is also a taste of the past. Napoli Villa has been holding up this corner since 1962. Guarino Cento immigrated to the States from Italy, opened the original restaurant in what is now the bar area.
My dad was a chef, and he just loved to create dishes. And his specialty was to walk in the dining room with a new dish and just give a sample to the customers. And I used to tell Dad, you're giving too much food. That's okay, they like it.
Antoinette and her brother John carried on the traditions of great sauce and great service.
We feel proud to be able to continue it. After that, he retired.
She has been such a rock of this business for such a long time and a presence in this neighborhood that they associate Napoli with my mom.
Now it's Carmelina and her brothers, a third generation of family serving families.
I think people always feel welcome, genuinely being attentive to, and they love coming here.
The menu features some of Guarino's original 60-plus-year-old recipes that have certainly stood the test of time. The pizza and lasagna have been popular from the start. There are also some new takes on familiar flavors.
If you think about all those great times in your life, it always kind of gravitates towards a meal or food, and that's kind of our focus. We've always kind of been that comfort food in the Italian food realm.
The Napoli family was able to navigate some tricky times this spring, but continued to get strong support from their neighbors.
It's almost like an extended family. Our customers are just, they're as invested as we are in this community.
Now they're enjoying the chance to welcome those friends back to the table.
It's been a very pleasure. My parents would be very proud if they were here.
Working for you in Beech Grove, Brad Brown, RTV6.
And thank you, Brad. An isolated downpour for the next couple of hours, especially to the east and south of Indianapolis.
Thanks for making RTV6 your choice for news. Join us for our next newscast at 11.